Halloween 2024 continues. Over the years, we have all heard about the Castlevanias, the Silent Hills, and the Resident Evil games. These are just some of the franchises that have made the horror genre popular in the gaming industry. But sometimes, we get some games out there that deliver on more. Sometimes, we get storylines. Powerful storylines and characters that feel down to earth and genuine in their struggles that most of us out there can sympathize with. Sometimes these stories touch something deep inside of us. The Devil Came Through Here trilogy brings to the table 3 powerful storylines, each one tackling different real-world problems and each one letting the player decide how they will face them as they journey through some nightmare-like settings. This trilogy is one that not many people have heard of and consists of the following games: The Cat Lady, Downfall, and Laureli. This universe was created by brothers Remigiusz and Mikhail Michalski, and all games in this trilogy were released under the Harvester Games brand. This universe, and these specific titles in general, will tackle some very serious issues, such as depression, murder, suicide, and that's just to name a few, and how we as humans struggle with such inner demons and psychological obstacles in our lives. The Cat Lady is the first of this trilogy and was released in 2012 for Windows and Linux. You take control of Susan Ashworth, a middle-aged woman who is known as the Cat Lady in her neighborhood because she likes to play the piano, which attracts the kitties to her place. You also find out that she has a huge dislike for flowers, which is explained in tragic detail as the story progresses.
Some would say it's a lonely life, and I guess that's true, but I don't like people's company. Not lately, anyway. I only trust my cats these days, and I will miss them dearly, but they will understand, like they always have. Teacup stays with me till the end. He watches me, as if he knew.
She has no friends, and you find out that she lives a very solitary life overall, while suffering from depression due to a past event in her life, which the story fleshes out as you play, and one which I will not mention here so as to not spoil the story.
Because earlier tonight, I swallowed a whole bunch of pills. They're legal, of course.
As soon as the story starts off, we see that Susan commits suicide and finds herself in a strange world that is inhabited by a being that refers to herself as the Queen of the Maggots.
Then on your way out, you will have to shed a few drops of blood. Not much, just a bit. Enough to open the door.
How much, exactly?
Don't be afraid. It's easy. Anyone can do it.
You soon are tasked with taking down 5 beings on Earth that are known as parasites, and the Queen of Maggots gives you immortality to assist you in your quest. From there, you will progress via different storylines as you come face to face with the different parasites and making new acquaintances along the way while unlocking more of your character's past, giving you a better idea of why Susan is who she is.
Stop acting like one! When was the last time you showed me that you care about me? All you ever talk about is the baby. I love her to bits, I swear I do. But I want to have a wife too. When was the last time you even kissed me? I'm not even talking about sex.
I knew it.
There are several endings for the game depending on what actions you take during your journey. This is a game that you can actually watch a playthrough of it in YouTube, and it feels like watching a well-written tragic story play out on a 2D playing field. The graphics here have a very unique look, and the gameplay here is a bit reminiscent of the point-and-click adventure games that littered the PC gaming landscape back in the late 80s to the late 90s. The soundtrack here is simply magnificent and fits well within this twisted world we are all introduced into. The soundtrack was composed by Mikhail Michalski and would stay this way for the remainder of the trilogy. Downfall is the next entry, and the original port of this game was actually released all the way back in 2009, but the remake 2016 port redefined the story a bit to fit within the trilogy. Alongside the story being revamped, the graphics were slightly enhanced and new voice work was added. The story starts you off as a kid, and after a tragic accident, the game fast forwards to the future where you marry the girl that you met as a kid. But all is not well. Your wife now suffers from depression and what seems to be an eating disorder. She seems to be going through a mental breakdown as well once she and Joe arrive at the hotel for their getaway, hoping that this trip might help his wife out of her mental slump.
We're not alone, Joe. They are watching us.
Who?
These bad people. They live in the mirrors. They reach out sometimes, trying to grab. They've gone now.
But soon enough, she disappears.
Where the fuck is my wife?
Oh, she had to go. Not at first. She sat here for a bit. Wrote a note, a letter, I think. Maybe it's to you. But then she met Sophie.
Who?
They got on like a house on fire. They might just as well have been friends for years.
And you start to wander the hotel in search of her while meeting other mysterious characters along the way. At one point in the game, you also run into Susan from the previous title. I won't get into details though as to not spoil it. The entire game is once again a point-and-click like adventure that plays like a dream, never really explaining things but rather presenting them in a surreal way, making the game feel like a dream. Is Joe dreaming at all?
You can talk to me about it.
I can't. Really. It doesn't matter. Just worrying about nothing, I guess. You know what I'm like.
I do.
This title also has several endings depending on what choices that you make, and the Queen of the Maggots is referenced in this title as well as learning her human name, which happens to be Laureli. And that happens to be the title of the last game in this trilogy. But does this game provide insight into the history and origins of the Queen of Maggots? Laureli was released in 2019 using a slightly better graphics engine than its two predecessors, but utilizing the same gameplay mechanics as before. This time around, you take control of the title character. Her mother is a shell of her former self after her husband died.
Wait. Is that a black eye? Did he hit you again?
Don't be silly. I tripped on the carpet. It's no big deal.
Where is he?
It wasn't him.
He's in a pub, isn't he?
Yes, it's John's night out. Like every Monday.
And her new husband, John, is an alcoholic and an all-around human scum, as you find out as the story progresses.
He is ruining our life. He treats you like shit. And the only reason you're with him is that little fidget in your room, currently growing a nasty bruise on her tiny little head.
It's not as easy as you think, Lorelei.
No, it's very easy, Mum. 2 simple steps. Step 1, you dump John. Step 2, we fix what's left of this family. You and me.
After some tragic events take place, you will find yourself navigating Laureli through what feels like dreamlike scenarios, weaving in between them and reality. At one point, you will be responsible for guiding a young man through one of the lowest points in his life and ultimately deciding whether to help out or relish in partaking in his downfall. Later in the game, you come upon an individual who might be able to help you in taking down the Queen of Maggots. Or so it seems that way. And if you find yourself completely lost and confused by it all as you progress through the game, don't stress out. I think this was the effect the developers had in mind when they came up with the story. In fact, you will find yourself confused many times as you play through all these titles. Even though this is the last game in this trilogy, It was partially started before the enhanced version of Downfall, but the creator had doubts on the storyline and wasn't sure on how to proceed with Laureli. So he started to work on the 2016 enhanced version of Downfall in the meantime, and once it was finished, he felt that he had a satisfactory conclusion to the saga, and at that point concluded Laureli and the entire trilogy. I think one of the greatest obstacles that these games have to overcome from gamers is first impressions. In this modern gaming landscape, it's all about not only having the best graphics card, but game engines to justify their prices and ownership. We fall prey to wanting the best graphics, the ray tracing, the lighting effects, 3D rendering down to the most minuscule level that you couldn't even see if someone had not pointed out to you by magnifying the image 1,000 times. But we gotta have it. So when we see a game like The Cat Lady, Downfall, and Laureli, we see antiquated technology in modern times. We see regression from a gaming perspective, but fail to see what truly makes games like these a joy to experience. The stories. These characters resonate with us because in some way, they may be us, and that aspect brings a whole new level of immersion that goes beyond a great story and gameplay. Granted, the point-and-click style mechanics and gameplay might not be for everyone out there, but if you can get past a small graphical hiccup, you're gonna find a really engrossing story with some really interesting characters and plot twists that make this trilogy one that is worthy of at least a look at. So that is the Devil Came Through Here trilogy. Hope you all have a great and safe Halloween. So until next video, keep watching and keep gaming.
All you do is run left and right and press the attack button to attack with your leash.
Who do you fight?
Oh. But luckily, your leash attacks are powerful enough to cut them in half.
Sounds cool, man. What other games did you make?
Oh, you want to hear more? Okay. 2 years ago I made this odd little thing called Ice Cube Battles. I wanted to tap into that stupid everyday object simulator craze.
You made a game about ice cubes?
Mm-hmm. And they fight until they melt.
I'm just trying to imagine it.
I would actually pay money to play this game. I kid you not.